Have you ever read a book that broke you in the absolute best way possible? Like, you were crying, you were feeling the emotions, but at the same time you were filled with so much hope. That was my experience with The Masterpiece by Francine Rivers. It's a story of redemption, of grace, of God's love, and it reminded me that even the most broken lives can be made whole again. If you loved redeeming love, this is another book that will stay with you long after you finish the last page. Hi book bestie, welcome back to my channel. If I'm a new face to you, my name is Lauren, aka Lauren Page Reads on Instagram and TikTok. And I am your cozy book bestie. Today we are diving into The Masterpiece by Francine Rivers, which has easily become one of my favorite Christian romances that I've read this year, if not all time. I actually picked this one up because a friend of mine who I had just lent my copy of Redeeming Love to, she loved Redeeming Love so much, so she went on a massive Francine Rivers kick, and this was the second book that she read. And she was like, Lauren, you have to read this. And for clarification, she is not in the book world, okay? She just wanted to read. Okay, clarification. And honestly, she was right. I did need to read this book. But before we get into it, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and ring that bell so that you never miss out on any of the cozy bookish videos that I post for you each and every Friday. Also, I will try my very hardest not to have any spoilers in this video, and I am sorry if some of them slip through, but I am going to try my very best, okay? So be warned. And let's get into it. So what is The Masterpiece? Essentially, Roman is an LA-based artist. On the outside, he has everything that you could ever want. Money, fame, and this humongous house in Topanga Canyon. But of course, all of that hides how broken he really is. Grace enters the story as his new assistant. She's recovering from her own painful past and is just trying to rebuild her life and build a better life for her infant son. What she doesn't know at first is that Roman is living a double life, and he is actually a graffiti artist called The Bird by night. And this alter ego of The Bird is risky enough that if found out, Roman could lose his entire career. But what really ties these two characters together isn't the secrets or the tension that they have, which is palpable, by the way. It's the journey of redemption. Both Roman and Grace are carrying so much hurt, but there is a difference between the two of them. Grace is a believer, and Roman is not. And the question becomes, can God take those shattered pieces of these two humans and make something beautiful out of them? I don't even really have words to describe how this book made me feel. It made me cry like every 50 to 100 pages, and she is a chunky book, okay? Chunky. And I cried so many times. And like, y'all know I'm not much of a crier at books. There were chapters that just made me stop and put the book down, and I just needed like a moment to process. But also, the book wasn't heavy in a hopeless way, because Francine Rivers has this incredible gift of writing stories with real pain and brokenness. But she weaves lightness, hope, and humor in at just the right moments. So you're never drowning in the pain, and instead you're actually reminded that there is always light breaking through. The reading experience actually reminded me so much of Redeeming Love, where it was easy to read, but it carried so much depth, and there were so many layers of truth. Let's dive into the characters and start with Grace. She is the character I connected most to, probably because she is a woman. She has been through a devastating marriage, and she is raising her baby Samuel by herself, and she's still trying to figure out her footing, all while also taking night classes to complete her college degree. And her struggles are written in such honesty. They felt raw and sad, and at times I just wanted to give her a big hug. One of the hardest parts of this book to read was how the family that she was staying with treated Samuel, and they did not treat him bad or anything. But instead, the wife of that family looked at Samuel as if he could fill a void in her that we know only God can fill. Yes. But the thing is, she already had 2 teenagers who still needed their mom, and she was wanting to adopt Samuel to fill this void in her life, despite already having 2 children. And that thread tied everything back to the much bigger picture of the story, that only God can fill those empty places in your heart. And then there's Roman. Yes. Roman. His backstory is heartbreaking. Seeing him as a child in the foster care system, specifically in San Francisco, added so much compassion for his character. And you realize that the walls that he has built up and has around him as an adult aren't arrogance. They're a way that he survived when he was younger. And his double life as the bird added tension because he started out as a gang member in his teen years. But more importantly, it symbolized a way that he was trying to fill that void once again that only God can fill. Fame, women, graffiti, none of it satisfied him. And that is such a relatable truth because I think we all have those things that we seek towards that we are looking for fulfillment in. But I also really loved the side characters, specifically Jasper and the pastor that Grace dated briefly and her best friend, Janice. I don't know. But Jasper is Roman's tutor from his childhood when he lived at the ranch, which essentially became his family. I loved the reveal that happened where we found out that Jasper is a believer, but he never pushed it onto Roman. He just loved Roman as we're called to love others in the Bible. And that quiet faith really stayed with me because it was through actions that we were able to see Jasper's faith. And then also Grace's aunt, Elizabeth. Elizabeth had raised Grace since she was 7 and her parents died unexpectedly. And that relationship was strained. But the healing came later and it was so beautifully written. And honestly, at times I did find myself frustrated at Grace. Okay, full transparency there. I was frustrated at her. Like, there were so many opportunities that she could have just asked Roman, like, hey, I have a kid. I work from your house and I'm staying at the cottage on your property. My son is having to go live with this other family because of childcare situation. Can he just come to work with me since he's still a baby? I will still get all my work done. I'll just have my son with me. But she never did. I was kind of irritated by that. But that frustration made it feel all the more real because it made Grace feel like she was a living, breathing human who had not thought about that option and thought her only option was to leave her baby with this family throughout the week. What really makes this book stand out is that it explores the themes of redemption, forgiveness, and God's love. And the biggest theme of it is misplaced fulfillment. Roman tries to fill his emptiness with success, fame, and graffiti. Grace's foster family tries to fill their emptiness with her baby Samuel. And the truth emerges again and again that nothing, not people, not fame, not wealth, can fulfill you. None of that can satisfy the way that God can. And one of the big turning points in this book, it is a romance, is when Grace and Roman decided to put God first before their relationship. And it wasn't by Roman's choice, okay? It wasn't. But it is what was right and what needed to happen. They could have rushed into something physical, something that was based only on attraction. But instead, they waited. And it broke both of their hearts. And they gave that space to God. And it is such a powerful reminder personally for me. It's not just a fictional lesson. When we put God first, everything else falls into place in His perfect timing. And sometimes That's hard to believe. What about Francine Rivers' writing in this book? It's well over 500 pages, okay? Like I said, she's thick, but it never once felt slow to me. The pacing is absolutely perfect, and I couldn't put it down, and I didn't want it to end. I'd say that it honestly matches the vibe of Redeeming Love. It's accessible, it's easy to read, and you are getting so much richness with this story. And I don't want to spoil the story, but I do want to share a few of my favorite moments throughout the book so that if you do want to read the book, when you find these moments in the book, you're like, ah, I remember Lauren said that. First is when Grace and Roman go into the restaurant on their road trip. I'm gonna leave it at that, okay? I'm gonna leave it at that. I was in tears. Second, the scene where Grace was a little girl and in her childhood bedroom at Aunt Elizabeth's house. If you know, you know, and I was full on ugly crying in that moment, okay? I'm not even gonna say like I was just like tearing up. I was ugly crying. Both of these moments in the story were turning points, and they were so freaking emotional. And they also captured everything that I loved about this book. The healing, the vulnerability, and God's presence in the details, or in the big moments. Yeah. So who should read this book? If you enjoyed Redeeming Love, you need to read this book, okay? I said what I said. This book should absolutely be on your shelf, no question. But I would also recommend it to anybody who enjoys Christian romance, or even if you don't like Christian romance or you've never tried the genre, if you like romances and books that include the story of redemption and second chances, I think you would really appreciate this book. It's a heartfelt, moving book that points back to the truth in such a beautiful way. For me, the biggest takeaway of the masterpiece by Francine Rivers is that even the most broken pieces of our lives, the parts that feel unfixable, God sees them and He loves us, and that they can be transformed into something beautiful in His hands. And that is a message I want to carry with me throughout my entire life. Overall, the masterpiece is exactly what the title promised. It is a masterpiece. It broke me, it built me back up, and it reminded me of God's mercy and love. I would love to hear from you in the comments. Have you read the masterpiece, or have you added it to your TBR? Did you connect more with Roman or with Grace? Or maybe one of the side characters stole your heart like how Jasper and Aunt Elizabeth stole mine. And if you enjoyed this review, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to ring that bell. Also, go check out my other book reviews and bookish vlogs that I have. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, Book Bestie. I will see you in the next one. Bye!